Hello and welcome everyone to another puzzle challenge video from chessuniversity.com. This is Ryan presenting the puzzle, and before I dive into the new material for today, which is another difficult puzzle, so for advanced players, say under 2000 is the intended audience, I'm going to review the solution to yesterday's puzzle, which from this position is white to play and win. So if you haven't solved it and you'd like to, please pause the video now because I will proceed with the solution right now. So, as I said at the end of the last video, I played the move rook h3 to tactically defend my knight, and my opponent on the previous move played the move g6 to defend this h5 pawn, overlooking my secondary threat with rook h3. So rook h3 had a defensive point, which was in this position to be able to meet this with bishop takes b5, check, winning the queen to discovery. And the secondary point was actually that I was threatening something as well, which my opponent overlooked, and that was the move knight takes b5. And the very nice point here, of course it has to be taken. If this isn't accepted, the knight will simply move. Black lost an important pawn, the queen's got to move anyway, and the position's just opening up against the black king. So if it's taken, this is the critical thing you have to see, then bishop takes b5. Thanks to previous play, the rook is now on the open d file, and black's king's in the crosshairs. Knight d7 doesn't help because you can just take it, so the only move here is bishop c6. And now we see the second point of rook h3, which is that the move rook c3 is completely crushing, pinning the bishop here. And now no matter where the queen goes to try to escape the pin, let's say here, there's all sorts of combinations of moves you could play here involving knight a5, like takes and knight a5, for example. You can even play rook takes c6 and knight a5, and then take back on c6. Everything here is completely winning. So as long as you see the idea of the knight sack and then bishop c6 meeting with rook c3, that definitely counts as a solution. So good job if you found it, and if not, still good to keep in mind always looking at the forcing moves. So that's checks, captures, and other types of threats, but primarily checks and captures. All right, so now that we've gotten that one covered, we can move on to our craziest puzzle of the week, I would say. This comes from a game played by one of my students, and it was with G30, so 30-minute game played on chess.com a couple weeks ago, and the players were both a little bit over 1100 on the website, and it's only about to be the 9th move for black, and it's just a complete mess, very difficult to figure out what's going on, but already there's only really, I would say there's 2 good moves. My student found a good practical move. It turns out to be the second best move in the position, and it leads to just complete mayhem. And there's also the best move. So the best move here gives black some advantage, although it's pretty murky, pretty unclear. So really, I guess I'll accept either of the top 2 moves here, because everything else is really bad for black. So black to play, and I would say make the position messy and also find a way to not just like lose material straight up. Alright, so we're going to rewind and see how we got here. This one started off as a Sicilian, where white brought the bishop out to c4 on move 2, which is usually a little bit early because this bishop often runs into problems, resulting from e6 and then later either d5 or a6 and b5, and the bishop will end up losing time. But in this game, black played the move knight c6. White, not being very subtle, went for the move queen f3, threatening checkmate in 1 on f7, and now e6 was played. Knight e5 is already fine here, for the record, forking the 2 pieces, and then black can just take the bishop on the next move after the queen goes to e2 or b3. But e6 was played, which is also very strong, helping develop both the queen and the bishop later, and of course stopping the threat of checkmate. White played the move c3, probably hoping to go d4 in the near future, but then they were hit with knight e5, queen e2, and here knight f6, which is really where things sort of get very, very messy. Well, not here, but on the next move. Here I think already the simplest for black to get a clear advantage would be to win the bishop pair, and then play d5 and control a lot of squares in the center. Let's say takes, and now either the check on b5 or the check on e2 to get out of the attack by the pawn. In either case, black can block and be just having very open development, very good central control, and a good position. So let's say queen b5, yeah, I think just queen d7 or bishop d7 both look very good. A position like this is excellent for black. 2 bishops, good center, very nice position. Instead, knight f6, white decided to save their bishop, and now b6, and this is where the chaos button is firmly pressed, because f4 now is played. Now knight to g6, attacking f4, pawn to e5, and My student played the move knight takes f4, which is a good move, but it's incredibly complicated. And I wish from a practical level that the knight on f6 had just moved to safety. So a move like knight d5 I think is just much easier to handle over the board. You're attacking the pawn on f4 twice, and if g3, you can just go bishop b7, threatening all sorts of knight jumps and discoveries against the rook. And black's not like losing any pieces here. Nothing's like hanging, so that's kind of nice, especially when you're playing fast chess. It's hard to calculate everything super deeply. So yeah, instead knight takes f4 is played, which is it's a good move. It's a principled move, but the thing is, after the move queen f3, it's like I said at the beginning, it's going to be black to play and try to find their way out of this mess. Because one thing to realize is that both knights are hanging. Also, the rook is hanging. All of black's pieces are hanging. So the question is, how do you get yourself out of this mess in the least bad way? That's the task for you guys at home to try to solve. And if you see the best solution, or you have a line that you think is interesting, feel free to comment on YouTube or on chessuniversity.com. Check the link in the description for the official post if that interests you. And with that, I'll leave you guys to solve it. Have a good rest of your weekend, wherever you are. Stay safe, and I'll see everyone tomorrow as we start back with the easier puzzles. Take care.